This is the Whimsy Farm Podcast. I'm Carolyn Crane.
There's a big wide world right out your door. Good people doing good things. Whoa, it's a big wide world. Now is the time. Now is our time.
Welcome, everyone. This episode streams on November 1st, which is also the pagan holiday Samhain. The following day is the Day of the Dead. This time of year is long known for when the veil is thin or when it's easier for us to connect with loved ones who have crossed over or transitioned. One way we can do that is through Akashic records. Our first guest today, Christabeth Ingold, will share her knowledge of the records with us. Welcome to the Whimsy Farm Podcast, my friend Christabeth Ingold.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm literally just so excited to be here to talk with you, to be a part of the juicy conversations you have been having on your podcast so far, and can't wait to bring in what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, it's a special day today, the day the screen's Samhain, and that means it's a pagan holiday. There's two a year. Beltane is 6 months earlier to bring in the spring, and then Samhain brings in the fall and autumn and all that entails. And these are ancient holidays.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell us a little bit about what you know about them and how they relate to how Samhain particularly relates to the veil being thin and the Akashic records.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, yeah. Okay. So, Samhain specifically, that's one that I feel like I can feel that energy. I feel very close to it. And so the energy of Samhain is that when we say the thinning of the veil, it's really like that transitional point between life and death. And so in the Northern Hemisphere, when we're having that transitional point in the fall, in the autumn, right, we're going from like there has been life and now life is retreating and there's like death happening with nature, and then we have an energetic death within ourselves with that as well. And that brings us to this point of complete, what I'm seeing here is like an open portal, this place where we can kind of like go through this portal between the living world and the non-living world to connect to beautiful energies beyond that. And that veil being that place where we can really ultimately connect to our ancestors. And although I do want to say, of course, we can connect to our ancestors and our past beloved ones anytime, any moment, all year long, it is particularly stronger or more potent in a certain way when we are in that point between when we get to Samhain and in that point of the death happening around us naturally and honoring that. And that's an important piece too. I want to mention like the honoring of that, and that with every life, no matter what that is, there is a death that's going to happen, and then new life will be born from that. And so that veil really helps us to actually also feel, see, and be reconnected to our ancestral lineages in ways that can be incredibly supportive, that can remind us of our own wisdom, remind us of the wisdom that lives within the ancestors that we hold now in our blood and our bones. And so it's this beautiful time to kind of have this connection more deeply or more easily, to kind of let them let us know, hey, let's reconnect and guide us, because they are our guides, and allow us to reconnect to them in that way. And, when we're really going farther back into, right, these, as you said, like ancient times and holiday here, holy day, to that thinning of the veil piece, um, there again, there was an honoring, there was a reverence for that time, and there wasn't fear. And now it's turned into, when, right, things have been colonized, when the church has taken over, there's been more fear. We've been taught to kind of fear the other side, to fear something outside of us that maybe we can't see, that might be intangible, that we don't understand, or to fear death itself. And so it's really actually a time to go, wow, there's still life there, but it might look different and be different. And the ways that we can carry that wisdom through that strength of our ancestors through ourselves, through our blood and our bones. And sometimes it's just a nice connection and reminder as well that what's coming up for me as I share this, just, as an example, is I really miss my grandparents, and especially all of them, but especially my grandmothers. And so being able to feel that reconnection or invite them in to reconnect with me through that time can be really potent. And as we know too, different cultures also have a very similar practice or holy day or holiday around right the end of October, beginning of November, and different belief systems to connect to their past loved ones or honor them as well. Does that make sense so far?
Yes, that makes perfect sense. And I appreciate you bringing up colonization because I think many people, not necessarily my audience, but many people in this country have a fear of anything that is not Christian. And they may think this is just too weird and scary that you're talking about connecting with people. I've been thinking about that. I'm connecting with people who've crossed over. I've been thinking about that because I know in my family, I have a little nephew who was the fourth, the first, junior, third, and then fourth. And I recently talked to someone whose family has the sixth. And it's a very acceptable thing in our culture to name people after the father, the grandfather, the lineage. That is considered an honor. But
Hmm.
yet to go further and to have a more direct relationship with them can be considered almost taboo.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
I appreciate you bringing that up because it's a limiter that is unnecessary and unhelpful when I believe and I've experienced these elders and ancestors want to help us and give us perspective.
Hmm. I have the chills as you say that because it's so beautiful that there's ways that we do honor them and then ways that we shy away from or are afraid to honor them. And how then what becomes possible when we do have ancestral reconnection? What becomes possible for for our lives, for remembering what they know, for their guidance. And the other thing I want to say here too, is that like we also will be an ancestor one day. And depending on your beliefs, I'll also throw this in there. You might be your own ancestor too from a past life in this family line. That's a whole other conversation. But like, so it's like, how can we become good ancestors now as well? Where, as you say that, what came up was like, I hope that the work I'm doing, who I am, won't be forgotten. My name will be forgotten at some point in my ancestral lineage. And I hope that the energy of what I'm able to bring to the lineage in some way, shape, or form somehow lives on. And that I'm able to have and offer guidance to the ancestors that will come after me as well. Yeah.
That's a lovely thought. So, where do Akashic records fit in? And what are, for our listeners who may not even know what they are, what are Akashic records and um, are they at a library? How do you find them? What's going on with that?
There's so much I can say about this, and I could literally just talk about the records all day. So I'm going to talk about this in a few different ways to help people might process or understand it differently. Essentially, what I want to share as I start to speak about the Akashic records first is where they've really come from. I think it's important as we're talking about colonization and honoring that the name Akasha and Akashic is actually from ancient like Sanskrit and from India and from Nepal. And so um, the Akasha or Akashic is translated into many things, but a few of them would be like sky, ether. One of my favorites is unseen storage space in the sky. So we're talking about really ultimately the way that I'm thinking about this is the energy field that we're a part of, we're not separate from. But again, we might not be able to tangibly feel it or see it, but we're in it. We're a part of it. It is a part of us, and we are a part of it. And you can also call it God, creator, spirit, nature, whatever words make sense for you to say that. So this so as we go back to ancient India, this idea that there's this energy field that is all knowing, that is all wisdom filled with the most incredible, like divine, aligned wisdom and knowledge that we too hold, but we're not always accessing or living from or feeling. And so eventually, so I just want to name, there's this person who's a spiritualist in the 1800s, had gone to India, and learned like some spiritual things there, Helena Blavatsky, and she like began to bring this idea of the Akashic records more west. And then she brought it more west. She even has written many books. She's a psychic medium. So that's kind of like her focus is mediumship, psychic mediumship. And I haven't read her books, but apparently she does mention Akasha or the Akashic records in her books. And then it's brought more to the West. And then there are some people in the West like Edgar Casey who starts to access, I'm saying like quote unquote access, which just really means connect to this energy field called the Akashic records. Then this man, Johnny Prochatska, also brought this idea of the Akashic records forward, connecting to them. And what happened here is these are some of the people that became teachers to help people learn how to access the Akashic records and do it themselves, to have connection to this greater energy field of all-knowing wisdom that, again, we're a part of. We have come from it. We're in it now, and it is also where we're going to go back to, if you believe that there is afterlife, or maybe it's just like, yeah, your energy just goes back to something. That's where it goes back to. Many belief systems, religions, also across the world through all time and space have had some sort of similar idea. Of course, their languaging is different. They call it and label it different things. But at the end of the day, whether it's the Akashic records, whether it's the Torah, the Quran, there are these ideas in all of these pieces of belief that there is something greater that we are and we can connect to that then gives us information, wisdom-filled information. So I'm going to break this down a little bit more, but does that make sense so far?
Yes, I appreciate you connecting it to the Torah and the Quran also, because it is like different beams from the same sun.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And right in all, like again in different spiritual spaces too. Same idea. It's an idea, it's a concept, but we all have just different labels and names for it. So when I'm talking about the Akashic records, that's when I said ultimately I've been working with them very directly for a good 7 years at this point, and I keep learning from them, but they really at some point were like, we're everything. We're all of it. Call me God, call me creator, call me spirit, call me energy, call me nature. Like this is like it's everything. You just have different labels to help you explain and understand what we are, what this is. So I love this field so much because we're a part of it, and our soul wisdom, the energy of our soul, which I like to think of as the nectar of ourselves, the like most aligned, most beautiful, most higher parts of ourselves, our self energy lives in this field and we can connect to it. So initially, when I hear people talk about the Akashic records and the way I learned about it is really about connecting to your soul's energy, which is that higher self energy, or God energy or goddess energy or whatever, again, wording feels good to use there. And when we're connected to that and we're able to begin to receive that information, I always talk about channeling. So channeling that information or feeling it, seeing it, hearing it, perceiving it in some way, we then are guided to live our lives in alignment with ourselves to make sure that we're in right relationship with ourselves. We're in right relationship here in what we'll call Earth School with each other, with the land. And this is just a super side note, but I'm going to say it anyway. I really believe that if like all our world leaders and people in power were accessing their own Akashic records or the Akashic records for, um, the governments or whatever they're in power of, that our world would look completely different because they would not be making the decisions that they're making today. It would be an incredibly beautiful, peaceful place. It would be like amazing. So, so to break this down even more, Um, some people talk about it as like Google for the soul, because in this place, when you are connecting to the Akashic records, to this energy field, and there are many different ways that people do it. So I want to say that as well. Um, that it's really like you can bring literally anything and everything into this field to ask questions, to receive guidance on. And they make things, the Akashic records, this energy field makes things so like simple and clear in ways that our human brains take things and complicate things and make it complicated and hard in life or confusing. And they just have this way of breaking the information down and going, it's this simple, Christabeth. Like, why are you worrying about it? Or here's how you can resolve this issue. And it's like, oh, it was right in front of my face. I didn't even think about that. Or, oh, here's the answer to this question I've been really like sitting with. And that could be literally, again, anything. Um, so when perceiving this information, so I have a way where I have words that I say. So it's not like a religious prayer, but it's a prayer or words that I offer to connect to this energy field that then I can feel once I'm connected. And then I receive information through hearing, seeing, and feeling the information. Some people might use a prayer or words, offering words. Some people might go into meditation. Some people might go into like movement and dance. So also when we are doing those kinds of things, there are lots of ways that all of us in some way, shape, or form have already connected to this field, but we don't know it. We might not have language for it. We might not even realize we're doing it. But when we're in that place of like, wow, I really feel connected to something greater, that is the connection to the records. I'm going to explain this a little bit more, but I want to check in again to see if this is making sense.
Yes, it's fascinating. Please continue.
Awesome. So one way that that the record showed this to me, and I love to explain this way to people. So say you're taking a walk in the woods and you know how you got in there, and you see that there's a fork in the path ahead. You're going to have to make a decision as to which path you're going to take. Maybe you hear some water in the distance. Maybe your dog is running off and, doing something. You have a general sense of where you are in the woods and that maybe you have a choice point ahead. So that's like our human life. That's like our human self in our lives. We're like our life is the woods, and we're kind of like, here's how I got here. Here's what I'm doing. I have to make some decisions ahead. Maybe I want to go over to where I'm hearing the water and discover that. And so we have a sense of our surroundings here and now, and also the journey we've been on so far. And then the records, the Akashic records, it's panning out and it's seeing the whole forest for you. So it understands you have lived another life in this forest before that brought you to this forest now. And here's information from another lifetime, a past lifetime. Here's information about this lifetime, why you picked this specific forest to walk in and not a different one, the journey in this forest and its challenges, and why your soul might have choose or picked those challenges, or the things that have made things easy for you, why you might have picked the easier path. Like, what's your soul lesson happening here? The things that you have experienced, what are you doing with these experiences? How are they impacting you? And how do you want to be integrating them and showing up? And then they're also saying, although I personally don't work in a predictive way, but there are many times the records with me will talk about paths ahead and timelines of paths very specifically. And that's in any Akashic Records reader is going to have their own way of working, or the way the records will work with them. And so for me, I could say, hey, yeah, they're sharing with me that by between now and January, you might want to X, Y, Z. So when January comes, you're prepared for the next path in front of you, kind of thing. And so it's like the records really like help you pan out in a reading or a connection if you want to do it for yourself, and really see like, oh, I have greater understanding of what like the role of my soul is, of my soul lessons, of my soul contracts, of the paths ahead. Also holding, it's really also important, I think I mentioned this, holding that we all have free will. So even if we see different pathways ahead, there's so many we can choose from. It's not just one pathway. But it's like, if you want to take this pathway, then we can explore with the records, with your soul's energy and your soul's wisdom. Hey, what would happen? What's going to be the outcome if you took that pathway? what's going to be the outcome if you took that pathway or that pathway or that pathway. So we have free will and choice here as well. And so I love the kind of this like forest analogy or metaphor to kind of get us, oh yeah, walking in the forest, where I'm going, but no, I'm not able to see the whole forest and what could be ahead or where I have come from, or help me make more sense of what's happened in my life, especially if there's been traumas and things that's been really hard to understand. Why did this happen to me? And what am I learning from this? And so there are many ways where we can answer literally any questions and all questions. Something else I want to mention here about the Akashic records too is that uh, I just talked a lot about it in terms of connection to our own soul and soul growth. But when we're accessing this energy field that we're, again, this incredibly all loving, full encompassing, beautiful energy field, there's so much there, so much more there than only our soul and our soul's wisdom. We can connect to many beautiful realities or realms or spaces and times. So that's the other thing too. And I hear people talk about it. I'm like, you don't even understand how limitless. I can't even like that's a whole other day too. I could talk so much about how limitless the Akashic records are in terms of what we can access and what they can show us and what they can give us. And it's really information that we know, but in our human selves and our human bodies and human brains and minds, we have forgotten as we've embodied here. But it's like our soul knows that information. And so why not connect to that to help us when we need some assistance, guidance, support, love, help, clarity, understanding, affirmation in this life? Like, why not utilize this gift that naturally we all have and that's within us and that we can connect to? Like, it's like our heart of hearts of hearts of hearts, essentially. So, um, I was trying to think just really quick if there's another way I want to explain that. But yeah, it's funny, like the Google for the soul one, I hear people talk about that one, but I really love the forest one, and really accessing all of your soul information that way.
I love that too, the forest, and I'm a big fan of forests, and I can visualize that. So tell me this though. So I see the forest, and I see the paths, and I hear the water, and I see my dog. I'm right there with you. Where are the ancestors? Where do they fit in to the
Mhm.
forest scene and the Akashic records?
Okay, so I opened the records before I came into this in case they wanted to share anything. Because it's like, yeah, we're going to talk about you, and so sweet about this is they're showing me and they're telling me that your ancestors are everywhere in the forest. So I'm seeing like the trees are made of your ancestors and your ancestors like guidance and love, or they're like hanging out at trees, or they're at the water. So it's like your ancestors are everywhere you are. You are, because they're a part of you, and if there's ways that you want to connect to them, call them in, hear from them, feel them, whatever that might be, that they're already there. They're already there and they're already connected to you through at all times. So I just keep seeing this beautiful, like walking through the forest and being like, oh, there's my grandmother's with me, her energy is with me right now, right here. And so it's not like they're off in some other special place. It's really like they can be connected in this exact moment and come in this exact moment. Does that make sense? And does that help answer that?
Yes, it does. And it made me think of my students. I'm a community college composition teacher, among other things.
Mhm.
And so many of my students, most of them are ages 18 to 22, will write with a great reverence about their grandparents who have passed over, or an uncle or aunt who raised them who's passed over, an important recently departed ancestor. And again, they may not have any concept of something as esoteric as Akashic records, but as they are grieving or remembering or celebrating these ancestors, they are the ancestors are with them, according to what you're saying, right? That the ancestors are right there saying, I've got you, I'm
Mhm.
still here. And maybe that is part of why they're preoccupied with the ancestors. Is that on the right track?
Absolutely. Yeah, the ancestors are there. And kind of coming back to the beginning of our conversation where depending on how we were raised, like familial wise, culture wise, society wise, who we are in connection to ourselves, to our peers, to the world that we're in, that there's many of us, right, again, in more of this colonized Western world, actually all of the fucking, sorry, I don't know if I can say
Yeah, you can say fuck on my podcast.
okay, thank you. Fucking colonized Western world, we're so disconnected. And the thing is, we're hungry, like we're hungry for the connection. We're thirsty for that connection. There are people that are walking around going, I know there's something more. I feel like I'm missing something. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling anxious. And yes, there are real world things happening or imbalances in the body happening that could be contributing to that. But we have lost our connection to ourselves. And therefore, we have lost our connection to our ancestors and all of their wisdom and everything that they hold. So it's so beautiful that your students are connecting this way and writing about them and to them and those ancestors, when that is a way to connect to them, to write about them, to write to them. You don't have to know their stories. That if you just have that little inquiry, that little tiny, even if the door is just open a smidge, to kind of go, what's up with this? Are you there? Hello? Like maybe I want to meet you. Can you come in? And who are you? And it's like that energy, it just shows up because our ancestors love us so much. I very often think about that quote and I don't actually remember exactly how it goes. Maybe you will, but it's like that's that quote that's like you're the vision of the love of 1,000 of your ancestors that come before you or something like that.
That's beautiful. I don't know the quote, but it's a beautiful idea.
Yeah. And we didn't all maybe get here in the most loving ways. Like there has been, right, violence upon bodies that then, like, there's sexual violence and stuff in ways that people got here that way. But the ancestors want to even then still support us in our lives and help us know ourselves and give us the wisdom that they hold of earth and of spirit as well. And so through exactly what you're saying, yes, that is total connection as well. And it just also reminds me of many, many clients I've worked with the Akashic records that have also been adopted that don't know their family and they don't know anything about where they've come from. And through the records, we've been able to actually connect to their ancestors because their ancestors, right, they live through us in our blood and our bones. We carry them. We carry their stories, even if we don't consciously know them. We subconsciously know the energy of them and their stories. And so there's been a lot of things we've been able to resolve or make sense of things differently or more open doorways to more exploration through the Akashic records being this very direct link. That's the thing about it. They're very clear. They're very like they're not here to like mess with our time. They're very direct and clear about the information that they want to give us. And so working with people that have experienced that, or anybody, like I do my own work too to connect to my own ancestors that I do know, and there's always more. There's always something to learn about.
I was thinking, and that's why I brought what you see behind me here onto my humble little set here today. It's a pictures of my favorite pictures of my parents, my father on my mother's 80th birthday holding a glass of champagne, and my mom, my favorite picture of my mom, that was when she was a teenager at a summer camp that she loved. And then the bottle of wine is not good to drink. It's from 1993, but it was bottled in part by my nephew who died when he was 10. He died the following year when he was 10, and I've kept that bottle ever since. So I bring this up because I think that's another reason why colonized folks who may think this is way out there will have these pictures in their home. They will have these memorabilia that for some reason they can't part with. It makes them too sad, uh, or family trees on the wall, or different different beckonings, if you will, to connect with the ancestors. But the restrictive rules of their religion might make the relationship stop there. they may not realize that it is, in fact, a mutual back and forth, very much alive relationship.
Mhm. I love that you just said that. It's a very much alive relationship because it is. And they're always there for us, waiting for us, um, loving us. Sometimes they're really patient and they're like on your own time, on your own timeline when you're ready. And sometimes they want to push through a little bit more and go, no, like we have gifts for you. And we really want you to have these gifts and feel our connection and feel our support here. Yeah.
I want to touch on uh, another aspect of your work that relates to this.
Mhm.
And forgive me, I'm just sort of popping this on you, but I think you'll be fine. You are a death doula. Most recently, you became a death doula. Can
Mhm.
you talk a little bit about that work and how your expertise in Akashic records has intertwined with helping people transition?
I love this question, another topic I can talk about all day. But this one really, I have to say, um, coming into or stepping more into doing death work, and I do it in a, I'll say, unconventional kind of way. So I'll explain that and the ways that I'm working so far anyway, mostly. Um, now I forget where I was going with that thought, but like so let me back up again. So really stepping into this work, because it's very sacred. It's the most like sacred work that out of all the work I do, which I love everything I offer. I love everything I do. Like it's all my heart's work. But the death work piece is like a whole other level of sacredness. And so I started doing not, I didn't seek this out. It just started happening, but like very actively doing a lot of channeling work about a good 15, 16, 17 or so ish years ago, through energy work and other kinds of little like things I was doing and supporting clients, starting like my practice and supporting clients. And always very naturally, past loved ones would come through. And so I don't call myself a medium, but essentially, like I really am, a medium in this way. And so it was happening naturally, and past loved ones would come through. That include people and pets as well. And sometimes even ancestral lands would come through where like, let's connect to those lands as well. And I would just like, to me, it was just like part of what I did and part of the session. It was just something I never really like, it was never really like, I didn't sit around thinking about it, just was what it was. And it was always beautiful because I saw how giving it was to people. And it really brought people peace, which is incredible. And so when and about 7 years ago, I learned about the Akashic records, and I had my own incredible sessions with my teacher Liz Varney, who introduced me to them. And once I went through some training with her to learn about the Akashic records and access them, I had this moment where I was like, in the very first afternoon of practicing this, I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this all along, but I didn't have language for it. I didn't have a label, I didn't have a name. And so, like going back and earlier to our conversation, where again, call it what you want to call it, we're all doing it in some way, shape, or form, channeling some sort of information in some way or connecting in some way. And I was like, oh my gosh. But what the Akashic record did offer me was way more like potent ways of accessing the information, more clear ways. And so my channeling got even better at accessing the information, including the ancestors and past loved ones. And so I definitely in sessions would have people um, come to me when people want to connect to their past loved ones. Or if they're just like, is there anybody out there that wants to connect with me? We'll see, hey, is there anybody here that wants to connect? And so we'll bring them in. And then I'm just kind of setting the stage for the next thing I'm going to share. What started happening to me through this work, but also just like I'd be going about my day, like living my life and stuff. And then I would feel suddenly like really, really off or not great. Um, or I would have somebody in my life who had somebody in their life that was dying. Like I've had a nephew's father die. I've had like, a friend's mother die, another friend's sister die. And through all of those deaths, I could like feel the energy of the person dying. I could feel where they were at in that process, because some deaths, right, like sometimes there was accidents and it was really sudden. Sometimes there's been an unfortunate like health event that happened and then we have to take them off life support. But I could feel them during that time period, that liminal space of like their body is still here, but they're not really here anymore, and kind of where they were at with their soul energy. And what I learned through all of this was actually I am a portal, and those who are dying or have died or who have died see me as a portal to help them get to the other side, to the light, to spirit, to again, whatever you want to call that. And I had an incredibly, and it feels important that to me, if it's okay if I just share this story very briefly, because it's a very um it really the words coming through, I've never said this phrase before, so this is funny. It like knocked my socks off though. Like I had this really profound experience about two and a half-ish years ago, where two of my best friends were visiting me, my college best friends were visiting me for the weekend. And that first night we were together, one of our friends' dads just like literally dropped dead. Like just he died. Like and so we were together and she got this news, and of course it was like, oh my gosh, like what do you need, what do we need to tend to you? Like she drove a couple hours, there's no way like you can drive back right now, there's no way you can drive home right now with the state you're in, of course. So we were all of course incredibly shocked, and of course it was traumatizing, it was sad, it was everything, angering, right? Like the whole process of what happens when there is death, um, or certain kinds of deaths, and how everybody's going to process it differently. So um, we go to this friend of mine's Jewish, and so we went to temple a couple days later to have the ceremony for him. And as soon as they brought the casket into the temple, I was like, and there he is. And then, like, my mind's eye, right? Like, I could see him, and he was being, I mean, actually like he was a very like kind of silly goofy person, and he was just being so funny and silly and goofy. But also I saw him go to his wife and have a very tender moment of how sad and sorry he was for what had happened, because of course this was incredibly shocking. And then we went back to my friend's parents' house after, and I saw him in a very specific spot in the yard that and he said to me, if you can share with my wife that if anytime she wants to be with me or connect to me, I'm always going to be here waiting for her in this very specific spot in the yard. So I eventually was able to share this information with my friend, who was like, "Oh my God, that's like where my parents would always go and sit." And I was like, "I can't make this up," but it was so sweet to offer that message. Um, uh, but then what happened from there is that whole week after, I felt I was waking up, I was like sleeping long hours. I happened to take the week off. I had it off like before this even happened. I was taking a staycation. So this death happened. Um, and that whole next week I was home hanging out, and every morning would wake up and literally I would say, my God, I'm dead tired. I could just rest. That's all I could do. I was like, I'm so exhausted. I don't know why I feel so tired. Am I having an adrenal thing? Because sometimes I've had adrenal stuff. So I'm like, what is going on? But it went on for like 6, 7 days or so. So finally, the end of the story here is I finally just was like, I got to figure this out. So I went, because I have a big toolbox. I have many of things that I use with clients and with myself. Put myself on my own table, my own healing table, and called in my own guidance, my own Akashic. I like to call them the Akashic healers, very specifically, actually, to come this guidance, right, in this other realm, to come help me support my body. And wouldn't you know it, sure as shit, I'm laying there and I feel something leave my body, like leave my body. And I see my friend's dad hovering above me, laughing like he's having the time of his death, I guess we could say. And then the only way I can explain it, and this might sound fucking weird to some people, and I get that, but the only way I can explain this is like the spirit UFO came and like beamed a light down and like brought him through the light. And wouldn't you know that afternoon after that session, I suddenly felt completely like myself again. I felt my all of my energy came back and I was totally fine, like nothing happened. And so I've had instances like that over many years and many different things happening, but it was never to that extent and nor for that length of time that I was really kind of like, and then it hit me, okay, like I'm really doing this. This is actually happening. And so let me go and get some support around this to learn how to do this in a way that works for everybody, because I love that I can be seen as that, but also it's it's a little disruptive to have my body used, in this kind of way. So I've actually done some very specifically shamanic training to help set the space, set my boundaries more, and work more with the dying and the dead that way. And so I've tended quite a few, many of deaths actually, through this kind of like energetic and spiritual realm of the physical body and the energetic body, or the physical body dying, and helping the energetic body or the soul body begin to separate and then be able to help what we would say in a certain ways like psychopomp, or help that body transition, help the energy transition of that person. And so that brought me to doing an actual death doula training. So my teachers are Catherine Show and Farber with Spirit Wellness Institute in Salem, who I did the shamanic training with, and Anne Marie Keppel, who's this amazing, beautiful, like super knowledgeable death doula. And so, yeah, I've did some training with her. And what's so interesting about that, and I'm going to kind of bring us back to our connection to the ancestors as well, is that in terms of they're always there, we're always connected to them, even if we don't feel it, is that all of us, even you and I here now, we are death doulas. It is naturally part of our ancestral lineages, no matter what lineage you come from, no matter where you come from in the world, no matter who your people are. Naturally, like we have always been the death tenders and the death doulas. And so part of being a death doula is putting that power and that knowledge, that information back into the person's hands who are dying, and back into, if they have any loved ones, their hands as well, to go, I can support you, we can do this together. But like your ancestors have done this because they were always the death doula. There weren't specific people that they would call to come when somebody was dying, right? Everybody was the birth doula, everybody was the death doula. And so I really love bringing that thought, that connection back to life within people, that we're so separated, but actually it lives in our DNA and it lives in our soul wisdom, that we are all death tenders in some way, shape, or form. I tend a lot of animal deaths, actually. I just tended a really cute black squirrel death today and helped that spirit, that energy of the squirrel be able to move on if it needed that help. I do a lot of that animal animal work, but also definitely done human work too as well. But it's like, yeah, like your nephew, any people that you've had passed in your life, like you have been a tender in some way, shape, or form. And if you have not yet, if you're listening to this and you have not yet, then you will be at some point. You will be at some point. Somebody's there in some way, shape, or form. And so getting comfortable with, one, the ancestral connection to help support us in those moments that feel hard, that feel scary, that feel heartbreaking, that feel tender, and have that support because they're there to support us through that process as well. And then two, knowing that like because of that support, I have within me what I need. And also I know what I can give and how to do this, but I also know when I need to call in support and help with the things I don't know how to do here. So I hope I'm bringing it full circle here a little bit with my work in that death dueling, and connecting it back to the ancestors and connecting it back to our own wisdom, soul wisdom, body wisdom, and the preciousness and sacredness. To me, it's like funny because my whole life I've always just like loved like old people, like elderly people. And no wonder I'm somebody, my personal makeup and my astrological makeup is very connected to spirit. Like I feel like I live, my life is the veil all the time. My life is like who I am is like Samhain, like all year round, in terms of that connection to the veil and to the other side. And that's who I've always been. And so it's so cool to like, I'm turning 43 this November, and to come more and more and more into myself, and this isn't something I just went and thought that would be cool to do. It's something, it's part of my soul wisdom, something I've always known, something I've been a part of. That's been a part of me my whole human life, and my soul uh, knowledge and wisdom as well. That there's lineage there. There's death doula lineage there as well that has brought me to where I am today, so I can help this very incredibly sacred time be beautiful, be celebrated, be ceremonious. Well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your time and space. And the last thing that I will, as we were talking about our ancestral connection and also our life connection to ourselves, there is somebody who once years ago said to me, or asked me, this person asked me, what is your greatest asset? It was a business like coach I was working with. And I'm like, I don't remember what I said, but whatever I said was wrong. And he was like, no, your greatest asset is your time. And it hit me in this way that I would love to leave that thought and that inquiry here for anybody listening, that how do you want to spend your precious time here? In what ways do you want to be connected to yourself, to your soul energy that can be helpful in this life and help you live from your most aligned place? How do you want to be connected to your ancestors that can help you as well? And how do you want to spend your time? Because life is long, but life is short. And so how are you spending your time, and what ways are you spending it? Because that is all of our greatest assets, and it's the only thing we have here. We have our breath, and coming back to our breath, and we have our time, and that is it. So
Well,
thanks.
and thank you, Christabel, for giving your time today to share this with us. It's been fascinating. And I thank you. I hope you come back another time on the Whimsy Farm podcast. And happy Samhain.
Happy Samhain. Woo!
Bye bye. Thanks to Akashic Records expert Christabel Ingold for joining us. Now let's welcome Mariam Barry, who brings us another segment of Poetry Sustains. Okay, welcome back to the Whimsy Farm podcast. My good friend Mariam Barry with another segment of Poetry Sustains. And today we celebrate the thin veil between life and death and Samhain. So happy Samhain.
Thank you. Happy Samhain to you, and happy birthday, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, it is. It is my birthday on the day this comes out, and my 63rd solar return.
Oh,
So,
la-di-da. That's great.
yeah. Okay, what do you have for us today?
Well, Alberto Rios is an important American poet, and this is a very worthwhile poem, but we're only going to look at the very first section of it, which is specific to the Day of the Dead. So the poem's title is November 2nd, Dia de los Muertos. It is not simply the Day of the Dead, loud and parties. More quietly, it is the day of my dead, the day of your dead. These days, the neon of it all, the big teeth, laughing skulls, the posed Carlos and Katrinas, and happy dead people doing funny things. It's all in good humor, and sometimes I can't help myself. I laugh out loud too. But I miss my father. My grandmother has been gone almost so long, I can't grab a hold of her voice with my ears anymore, not easily. My mother-in-law, she's still here, still in things packed in boxes, her laughter on videotape and in conversations. Our dog died several years ago, and I tried to say his name whenever I leave the house. You take care of this house now, I say to him, the way I always have, the way he knows. I grew up with the trips to the cemetery and Pan de Muerto, the prayers and favorite foods, the carne asada, the beer. But that was in the small town where my memory still lives. Today, I'm in the big city, and that small town feels far away. It's just
What a lovely
luscious.
metaphor. The town metaphor is just lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it works even for those of us who don't live in big cities, because our memory is often a cozier and more familiar place than the one that we live in now.
It's silk screened.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for bringing that one to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Halloween, Samhain, Day of the Dead, they're all about the same time of year. It's a cross-cultural recognition of the veil being thin.
Yeah, and I like that each of the poems we've settled on here approaches it from a different angle.
What's next, my dear?
Marie Howe, What the Living Do, is the title of a book and the title of this poem. And the book is dedicated to her brother, who is addressed in the first line, who, yeah, I don't need to explain it to you. What the Living Do. Johnny, the kitchen sink has been clogged for days. Some utensil probably fell down there. And the Drano won't work, but smells dangerous. And the crusty dishes have piled up, waiting for the plumber I still haven't called. This is the everyday we spoke of. It's winter again. The sky's a deep, headstrong blue, and the sunlight pours through the open living room's windows because the heat's on too high in here, and I can't turn it off. For weeks now, driving or dropping a bag of groceries in the street, the bag breaking, I've been thinking, this is what the living do. And yesterday, hurrying alongside those wobbly bricks in the Cambridge sidewalk, spilling my coffee down my wrist and sleeve, I thought again and again later, when buying a hairbrush, this is it. Parking, slamming the car door shut in the cold, what you called that yearning, what you finally gave up. We want the spring to come and the winter to pass. We want whoever to call or not call, a letter, a kiss. We want more and then more of it. But there are moments walking when I catch a glimpse of myself in the window glass, say the window of the corner video store, and I'm gripped by a cherishing so deep for my own blowing hair, chapped face, unbuttoned coat, that I'm speechless. I am living. I remember you.
Ooh.
I suppose you might not have known it was her brother if I hadn't told you that.
It could be any significant person.
Yeah.
This is about the time of year that I lost my husband. And one of the things that he used to say that I loved was, it's the little things. And he appreciated small gestures. And that's what this poem is about, how the living and their little things take up our consciousness and our identity. And we take them for granted. And here in that moment in the video store, she doesn't take it for granted. He's given her that gift.
Yeah. And the ending of the poem for me is just marvelous and encapsulates everything. I'm living. I remember you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's living too.
Because she remembers him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right.
Marie Howe, thank you.
Yeah. And also, doesn't matter, but doesn't she have great hair?
She does have great hair. I can see why she's cherishing it.
Yes, I can see why she's cherishing it too. Good point. Rebecca Elson is somebody who I found through she was a geologist first and then became an astronomer. She learned that she was dying at 29 and wrote this amazing book that I'm lucky to have called A Responsibility to Awe. There's
Ooh.
a copy of the book. that I'd highly
Yeah.
recommend to you. And yeah, this poem is an anecdote to our fear of death. Anecdote to fear of death, rather. So written by somebody who is facing her mortality really directly. Sometimes, as an anecdote to the fear of death, I eat the stars. Those nights lying on my back, I suck them from the quenching dark till they are all inside me, pepper hot and sharp. Sometimes, instead, I stir myself into a universe still young, still warm as blood. Not outer space, just space, the light of all the not yet stars, drifting like a bright mist. And all of us and everything there, but unconstrained by form. And sometimes it's enough for the down here on earth beside our long ancestral bones to walk across the cobble fields of our discarded skulls, each like a treasure, like a chrysalis, thinking of whatever left these husks flew off on bright wings.
Oh, I love that extended metaphor of the space here. And it reminds me of my friend Barb Barton, who wrote Manuman, who is an astronomer and
Oh, that's right.
writes and thinks a lot about the stars. She has a brand new telescope, so she's been doing some exciting things with it.
Yeah, her detail here is amazing. And
Mm-hmm,
sort of
yeah.
shows her, ability as a scientist to observe the pepper hot and sharp. I don't know if stars are really peppery when you put them in your mouth, but it works as a descriptor really well.
Yes, it does. It's original.
Yeah. Our
I'm going
last
to.
one is really a song. And obviously, with my voice, what it is today, I'm not going to try to sing this. I can just tell you that Warren Zevon is one of our great American songwriters. And he titled this song and the album it came out on My Rides Here before finding out, after not going to the doctor for about 25 years, that he was dying of stage 4 lung cancer. So he didn't know it was as meaningful as it is, but it ended up being meaningful in that way as well, since he didn't live too much longer after finding that out. And the Paul Muldoon helped him with the lyrics. My Rides Here. I was staying at the Marriott with Jesus and John Wayne. I was waiting for a chariot. They were waiting for a train. The sky was full of carrion. I'll take the Mazuma, said Jesus to Mary. That's the 310 to Yuma. My ride's here. The Houston sky was changeless. We galloped through blue bonnets. I was wrestling with an angel. You were working on a sonnet. You said, I believe the seraphim will gather up my pinto and carry us away, Jim, across the San Jacinto. My ride's here. Shelley and Keats were out in the streets, and even Lord Byron was leaving for Greece. While back at the Hilton, last but not least, Milton was holding his sides, saying, you bravos had better be ready to fight, or we'll never get out of East Texas tonight. The trail is long and the river is wide, and my ride's here. I was staying at the Westin. I was playing to a draw. when in walked Charlton Heston with the tablets of the law. He said, "It's still the greatest story." I said, "Man, I'd like to stay, but I'm bound for glory, and I'm on my way. My ride's here."
Oh, Warren Zevon, he had to have known on some cellular level when
I
he
know,
wrote that.
it's hard to read it any other way, isn't it?
And there's somebody famous who said that. It was his last words. Maybe it was John Trudell. I don't know. If you're listening out there and you know, shoot me an email and
Oh,
tell
his
me.
last words were, "My ride's here"?
Somebody famous like that,
Oh, wow. That's exciting.
besides Warren Zevon. Yeah, well, if anyone out there knows, please let us know. I think it's John Trudell, but I might be totally wrong.
I love the mixture.
Somebody knows.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody knows. I love the mixture of Americana and poetry, history, the way that we, are archly told that Lord Byron's leaving for Greece, where he's going to catch his ride. It's just so simple that it's powerful that it communicates what it does.
It is very simple, but it comes from a depth and breadth of knowledge from the classics to Americana, which is why it flows so well, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you
Oh,
for
I'm
sharing that.
so glad we got to go through these together. That was fun.
Yes, it was. And you'll be back soon. I don't remember when right now, but I know you'll be back soon.
Yeah.
And
hopefully less croaky.
Well, you're still wonderful even when you're croaky. And we will look forward to seeing you again. Meanwhile, happy Samhain and celebrate the
Happy
veil being
birthday.
thin. Thank you. Take care, my dear.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Mari and Barry, for joining our celebration of Samhain with a thought-provoking segment of Poetry Sustains. And thanks to Christabeth Ingold for sharing her knowledge and wisdom of the Akashic Records. You can find Christabeth at soulfullynourishing.com. This podcast is produced on the sacred ancestral land of the Anishinaabe people. Thanks to the California band Castle House for writing and performing our music. Thanks to our underwriter, Just Play Productions, and to our paid Patreon members for their support of today's podcast. If you'd like to offer your support, please visit my website, whimsyfarm.net, and click the Patreon link to find a level of support that's right for you. There's also a free membership level. You can email me through the website as well. Everything you need is at whimsyfarm.net. The Whimsy Farm podcast airs the 1st and 15th of each month on our YouTube channel, Carolyn Crane and Whimsy Farm, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can find audio and video and Patreon also at whimsyfarm.net. Remember the words of Utah Phillips, who said, "Too many good people are doing too many good things to afford me the luxury of being pessimistic." Get out there and create some positive change. Stay safe, everyone.
whimsyfarms.net